Hi everyone and welcome to my place. Today I'm here to sort out your printing or embellishing onto fabric, paper, ceramics or porcelain and glass. Let me walk you through it. I have a whole heap of stuff in front of me. Let me show you how it works. Right, this here is an outlining pen and this has been specifically designed for doing embellishments like so on ceramics. Once it goes onto the surface and you're quite satisfied with it, you put it into the oven and you set it. Once you've done that, that will mean that it is dishwasher proof, wash proof, and it's going to stay on there for eternity. Well, you're still going to have to be careful with it. In fact, I wouldn't put this into the dishwasher. I like to hand wash things like this because even though the manufacturer said that it would stay on there, sometimes it just doesn't. Okay, so that's what you would use. So that's the outliner for doing that. Now, while I've got the outline in my hand, you can also use this on glass as well, and that's what I've done on the outside of this bottle, and I'll get to that in due course. You can also, I've also done it on these glasses, and the other great thing about this is you can actually put your name around the outside, which is really cool and groovy, especially if you've got an event or a wedding and you want everybody to go home with a nice glass that you have done yourself. Now, it works exactly the same way as it does with the ceramics. You have to heat set these in the oven. Full instruction comes on the back of the pack. Okay, so that's that and that covered. Now you can also, the glass paint, which is this one here, which we'll have a wee closer look at later on, you can use that on glass and you can use it on the ceramic. So I've just put a little wash over the top of the leaves. I've gone over in some places, but I did that because I didn't want it to look like it was perfect and it was something that was done in a factory. I like to have things that are really lovely and natural looking. Right, that's that sorted out. So once you've got it on, and you can also, it also tells you for how long it goes into the oven. Okay, so that's got that sorted out. Now if you wanted to, you can also use this, the porcelain and glass paint. You can also use that for printing onto paper, which I have done here. I like to do, when I'm having an event or something and I'm sending out cards, I like to make my own cards. So that's one that I've stenciled and I've used the glass and tile paint. And what I love about this is it gives a really lovely sheen to it, which is, you can, I actually quite like that sheen, especially if the card's nice and dull. Okay, so you can use the same thing here and onto the paper. Now, when it comes to printing onto fabric, there is another product, and you know that it's for, there's a whole range come in with the PBO that you can, glass, tile, ceramic, but this one here is specially formulated for going onto fabric. So i.e. this and this, that is when you would use that. Now you know that it's for fabric, even if it's not in English or it's not in your language, it's usually got an iron mark at the top, like an ordinary everyday, like it'll have an iron mark. That's how you know. And to set it onto the fabric, there's two ways that you can go about that. You can either, once your image is dry, put it, turn it over the wrong side, put a piece of parchment paper underneath, and then you iron it. All instructions are on the back of the container. So I've done this and this one here, which we're going to look at doing in just a few minutes. And I like to use things like these stencils, and there's a whole array of these available on the market. I got these when we were in the States last year, and it was just amazing how much you guys have got there that I can't get here. I used to make my own stencils, but it's just so much easier when they're all ready to go. So if you want to personalize your wrapping paper, your cards and your table runners and napkins, that is what you would use. Now, I just need to go left or right for a moment and tell you that there is also another product on the market, and it's called Fabric Fixative, And with this, what's really great with that is you can actually use acrylic paint. So to make that green, this green here, I just used equal amounts of that and got this colour here. So it's a little bit deeper than what the prints are on here, only because I was being a bit slack and I didn't put enough yellow into it. But once you've mixed it, and to mix this up, which I'll go into in due course, it's to get the green, it's half blue, half yellow. If you want it to be more lime green, I would use more yellow with it. And there's different blues, different on the colour where you'll have cool colours and warm colours. When I want to get this limey green, I would use the warm blue and the warm yellow on the colour wheel to achieve that. And normally when you're buying your paint, sometimes it's got like, it'll have warm or cool on it. So that'll give you an indication to help you if you get stuck. Now to put it onto the fabric, it's half of this and half of the fabric, what is it, fabric fixative, and you give that just a mix up like you would do with anything else, and then once you've done it, it's ready to go. You can also use that to go onto your paper, like if you wanted to use a really lovely paper that you've made out of fabrics, you can use that as well. Right, so that's all the things that we're going to be discussing today. So let's start off with, I'll strike, and then I want to get into how it's all very self-explanatory how you do all of this, but I want to really get into what you can do with your fabric and your paper, because it's such an easy process once you know which paint goes with which. And the other thing I needed to say to you is that this is really expensive, like for a wee jar. It goes quite a long way, but if you've got a lot to do, this is the easiest way to do it, because you can get a lot of mileage for a small amount of money. So let me strike all of this, and then we'll get into it, and then we'll all be on the same page, and we'll get rid of confusion. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, mixing the paint and adding the fabric fixative to acrylic paint. First and foremost, what I like to do is I like to get everything all set up, ready to go. I've used a piece of cellophane or plastic on my workbench. Now, once you've got this done, you don't want to be moving it. Now, the other thing I like to use is some masking tape. And the reason I do that is because I want everything to stay in place. And once this is done, you don't want to be moving it until it's completely dry. So I'm going to be putting the fleur-de-lis, and that's positioned there in that corner. And I just want this to all stay together. Right, that's going to go there. And from the sheet, I've just cut that out. Now, getting the masking tape, putting that onto there like so, firmly, so that it doesn't move, because there's nothing worse than going through all this process of getting everything all ready to go, and then because you didn't fix it down and you didn't do your preparation, it moves. So it's easier to do that at this stage. Right, now the other thing before you proceed, have the right side facing you with the wrong side onto the surface. If you're doing, say you were doing a t-shirt, make sure that you've got a piece of parchment paper, baking paper, or something plastic underneath it, so that when you put the paint onto it, it doesn't run through into the back of it, because I've had that happen as well. Now, once you have mixed your paint and you have applied it to the face of your fabric, if you make a mistake, you can wash it out and start again, and it won't be heat set until you hit it, the back of it, with the iron. Okay, so once that everything's all nice and firm, it's now a matter of mixing up the paint. Now, to get your right colour, it's just a matter of, I just use one of these pads, plastic plate. These are great, and I can just reuse them, and there's no waste. Okay, getting that onto there like so. So we need equal parts of paint like so. And hopefully this is going to yield me the right green that I want. Getting a paintbrush and then just mixing those together to get the right shade of green. I actually do prefer this method because, as I said, it is much, much cheaper. So make sure that that is completely mixed in. If you wanted a bit more yellow, or to make it a bit more lime green, just mix that in at this stage and make sure that it's well mixed and ready to go. Right, from there, it's just a matter of adding equal amounts of, so once you've got your shade, then go to a jar, and I would put, absolutely precisely measure the amounts of green and blue or whatever you're using. Then, so if you've got, say, a centimetre at the bottom of the jar, you would add a centimetre of the fabric fixative to make sure that you've got something that is going to actually fix to the fabric. Okay, so I'll put those down, and with the magic of being very, very well organised, I've actually done one here, and I made this up, several months ago, and it's still working. It's just fantastic. And if it's still, now a little tip that I wanted to share with you, if the paint is too thin or in texture, it's a bit runny, you can get a solvent that you can put into that that'll make it thick. But the best way to make your paint thick, as I've discovered, is so easy, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, is just to leave the lid off it and to let it be in the air for a couple of hours, and it will slowly thicken up, just as acrylic paint would do if you were doing any other kind of painting. Right, from there I like to use a sponge for my application, and what I've done is it's just a beautiful soft sea sponge which I have soaked into water, and to remove the excess, because we don't want this to be too wet, I just put it into a kitchen paper towel and just squeeze out as much moisture as I can so that it's not too wet. In fact, you don't want it too wet at all, because if this is wet and you've got wet paint, sometimes what will happen is the paint will run. Now I've got one here that I've done, and you can see that so far so good. It's not really perfect like as if it's come out of a factory in China or wherever, but to me that mutation of the darks and the lights actually still works quite nicely. Now if you didn't want to use the sponge, you can get these things here. They're easy to make. This one I bought, but it's just a piece of doweling, and there's a little bit of sponge rubber put on the end there. I'm going to try this today. I don't actually like working this way. You can use a paintbrush, but I just thought that for today we could use the right one, Astar. And then it's just a matter of holding that firmly and just dabbing that over the top. And what's really nice about doing this way is that you can get some, it's like almost as if you can get your own shades, tones and tints as you're doing it. Now as I said, this needs to be firmly on. In fact, if you think you've got a bit too much, just dab that off. You need this to be really firm and not moving so that it doesn't bleed. But in saying that, look, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes it covers over perfectly and you don't get any bleeding, and then other times it does. But as I said, once it's dry, you can actually if you don't like what you've achieved, you can easily lift it off. Okay, so this is the moment when you think to yourself, please God, make it be right. Okay, so it's just a matter of lifting that off there, and then lifting that off there, and lifting that off there. Yes, it's a little bit of bleeding in there, and that's my fault because I probably used too much. But at that stage there, if I didn't like that, I can just put it into cold water and some detergent, and that will lift off. So when you're new to this, just have a little bit of a trial run to make sure that it is going to be to the desired design that you want, and it's going to be to the neatness that you want it to be. I'm not happy there and I'm not happy there, so I would say that that's going to be a strike, and I'll start again. Also do a little bit of a practice with some cards or some paper. And the other very, very vital thing I forgot to tell you is, before you do any setting, I know what it was. I know what I had to tell you. Right, so I'm going to tell you now. The other thing is, when you buy, if you're buying napkins or fabric that's just come off the roll, sometimes what they do is they put a size in it, and that size means that it's not going to absorb the paint or the dye properly. So always, always, always wash your fabric and then dry it and iron it before you start. And that was what I wanted to tell you about this here. That there, I knew I was going to get there in due course. That there, I really love that because my little lines are all neat and tidy, whereas that one there you can see that it's all sort of like a bit blurred over. That's because of the sizing and the paints, the dye's not actually going in there properly. So that's just a wee tip. Right, leave it on a flat surface. I like to leave mine at least 24 hours just to make sure. And what I do is I get this whole table here and I have everything all on the table, all ready to go. Right, once that is dry, it is then time, now if you just give me a few moments to strike this, it's then time to fix it onto the fabric once you are happy. So give me a couple of seconds to strike all this and then I'll come back and I'll show you how you do that. Oh, welcome back everybody. I'm just looking at the back of the instructions to tell you that you have to set your iron to the hottest you can get it, like a cotton or a linen setting, and then use it. So once that's done, you can either iron from the front, but if you are going to iron from the front, you actually need, oh goodness me, where is it? To put, what I would do is I would put a piece of fabric over the top of that before I ironed it. But I always find that the best way to fix it, oh look what I've done, lipstick on there, is hottest setting, and then iron it to make it set onto the fabric. You at the hottest setting for at least 5 minutes. It's a bit of a long, laborious job, but that's what's necessary if you want to be doing jobs like this at home. So just keep ironing that until that is fixed onto the surface, or actually fixed right through. You can see how it's run through a little bit here. Don't know how that lipstick got there, however, never mind, that's a story for another day. But just keep ironing it until that is fixed and fused into the fibres. Now, as I was saying, for something like this that's a little bit thicker, you're not going to actually, there's 2 layers there, to make sure that that actually stays on there. That's when I would use a little bit of calico or something like that, and then it's exactly the same process of just fixing that to the surface of your table runner or whatever it is that you're doing it, t-shirt, whatever. Now the other thing that I like to do with these is, let's just say that's been 5 minutes because I can't be bothered, it's boring watching somebody iron. From here what I would do is I would further embellish that, but we'll leave that for another day. So that's the story of fixing a design onto fabric. Now the different fabrics you use is going to determine how well it's going to, the design's going to fix onto here. And also, as I said earlier on, make sure if you make a mistake like I've done there, you can actually, if you haven't set it with the iron, you can actually get rid of that. But I actually like the whole thought of that, just, you know, sometimes to be, you know, nothing in nature's perfect, so why should I be perfect? So that's that all sorted out. Different fabrics will react in different ways. If you were doing it onto some silk, put it to the silk setting on your iron, and then put something over the top of it so that you don't burn the silk. Things like tweeds, things like wool, etc., they're going to give quite a fuzzy, if they've got a texture on them, like a fuzzy texture, like a corduroy or a velvet, you're going to get a completely different finish at the end. So do test runs before you start. But there we are, end of part 1 with fabric stenciling on your fabric stenciling is really what I want to say. Okay, so let me strike this and I'm going to show you how to do it using the glass and tile paint, because that's a really lovely process to know how to handle too. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, here we are, all set up, ready to go with the glass and tile paint for embellishing onto either porcelain, onto crockery or onto glass. well, actually it's the same process, except to fix it onto there, to make it dishwasher proof, you have to set it in the oven. And don't be thinking, oh my goodness, the glass will break. Well, to make one of these glasses, it's got to go through a big lot of heat, so it will be fine. Okay, now these are the things that you can do with it. You can paint the handle of a wine glass. Really simple, works exactly the same way. What I did was I painted underneath, and I've just done a really fine wash, put that over the underneath there, and then just gently just painted the whole surface with a brush. The other thing you can do is you can actually dip that into there, and you get this really lovely clear glass look. Really simple and easy to use. To using this here to get the little lines as I've got there on either the porcelain or onto the glass, it's just a matter of using this here, glasses, and you need this at the end there. You need to get your scissors and you need to cut that bit off. Now make sure that when you're cutting it that you don't make that nozzle too thick, because if you do make it too thick, what will happen is, and I just need a wee bit more off there, if you make that too thick, whoops, I didn't get it right either, still needs a bit more off. If you cut that too thick, it's going to come out, oh goodness me, I've got to do another bit there, and that's got even thicker than what I wanted. But this here is really great stuff, and I'll just get down here to show you. You might need to do a couple of test runs, but before we go any further, let me just tell you that you've got to clean the surface. Really important that you clean the surface to get rid of anything that might be on the surface. I don't use these paper tissues because they've got little fibrous things in them that can sometimes get onto the surface. I just use a piece of linen or lint-free fabric, put that onto there, and then just wipe the entire surface to make sure that there is no grease or any dirt or anything on there. And even though that was clean, you can see that a little bit has come off, so that the surface has got to be really clean. Once you put and as I said, it's isopropyl alcohol. Once you've done that, just let that dry for a few minutes. Then what I like to do is a little test run to make sure I've got it all sorted out. So with glasses on and getting my little tissue here, just give that a little, this is where my heart's almost in. Have I taken that thing off there? Hold on a minute. Oh, look at I'm so stupid today, everybody. Why didn't I do that to start with? Right, take that off there, put that onto there. I knew that there was a problem. It should have come away much easier than that. So I'll just take a little bit out of there to make sure that that's all off. And then it's just a matter of just a nice run through like so. And then if you wanted to do your leaves, it's just a matter of doing that like that. And it doesn't matter if the whole thing's not filled in. And then just having the others going down like that. Okay, now, if at this stage you make a mistake, please don't have tears, because it's as easy as wiping that off like so, getting another thing of getting some more isopropyl alcohol and just rubbing that off, and then you can have another crack at getting it sorted. Now, if you wanted to do the glass, or as I've done with this here, exactly the same process. And as I said, I really love that this is all uneven. To me, that's a really lovely natural organic sort of earth, gives it a lovely earthiness to it. And also with the glasses, and you can tell that whatever the theme was, I had all leaves running through. Right, once you get to there, give that a shake, and just using the paintbrush, so put your leaves on the outside as I've done, and then using a nice fine brush. Hold on, I always do this. Yep, that's going to be a perfect brush to use with eyes on, and it's just a matter of filling those little bits in. And as I said, you don't need to completely cover the whole thing, because it just doesn't matter. So the more application you have on your brush, the thicker that's going to be, like so. And what I love about having the outline first is that the paint stays within the confines, with that little raised bit there just stops it from running around. So that's one look, doing that. And then the other way is just doing this here. And what I did with this one when I did it was, because I didn't want it all over the whole leaf, just doing this, and then you let it dry for a few minutes and then just dab like so to bring that colour back off there, or just give it a wee wipe once it's nearly dry. In fact, I want that to be just a little bit thicker than that. I love doing things like this, it's just great. So there you have it. And if you do make a mistake, as I said, it's just a matter of wiping that off, hitting it with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and there you go. Once you're quite satisfied, let it dry 24 hours. I always go 2-day, 24-hour period because I know then that it is fixed and it is dry. Set the oven to 140, put it, or 160 I think it is, whatever it says. Each manufacturer has different time settings, but once you've done that, just stick it in the oven for the time that is allotted, and then that won't come off, and I think that that is fantastic. So there you have different printing methods of application for personalising your own stationery, your own linen, your own crockery and your own glassware. I hope I have cleared up some of the myths that have been surrounding, well, I've had some serious issues over the years too with what works with what. So I hope I've solved your problems, and I look forward to seeing you another day. Thanks for watching.